Hello, thanks for joining me. Today I'm visiting a rural Welsh chapel. This is the Welsh Baptist chapel in the tiny hamlet of Star in North Pembrokeshire. The congregation here was founded around 1829, but it had no chapel, no minister of its own, and met in a rented room at the local pub. In 1831, enough money had been raised to construct a small chapel building on the site of what is now the vestry. They had asked local landowners to sell them a piece of land on which to build, and at this time the congregation was served by the Reverend Woolcock, the minister of the chapel at Cynfelyn Mynach. He had a dream that he saw stars in the sky, one of which fell on a rock and blazed there momentarily. He asked the owner of the land where this rock was to sell it, and that's where the first chapel stood. In 1879 this larger chapel began to be built and was finished a few years later, though not fully paid for a while. We don't know the name of the architect. Earlier chapels were often designed and built by their members, but by this period an outside designer was the norm, though sometimes just a talented amateur rather than a professional. This looks very like the work of David Davies of Pembrokeshire, who was a local architect who built several chapels and churches in this area, but there's no evidence that he built it. Like most Welsh chapels, it's a rectangular box. This is of the gable entry style, typical of later chapels. It's not really pretty on the outside. It has a flat rendered front with one central door and a row of windows above. The windows on the sides are round-headed like those on the front and indicate two floors because, as we'll see when we go inside, there's a three-sided gallery. The upper windows have wooden Florentine tracery. The site is an awkward one. It's built on a steep slope. A level area outside is the site of the baptism pool. Some Baptist chapels had indoor baptistries, but here the new members had to be baptised in the open air. So let's go inside and see what it's like behind the door. This settle, or skew in Welsh, is inscribed W. Harris 1831. It's the oldest thing in the chapel, and it once belonged to William Harris, who was an early member of Star. His descendants are still active here today. There's an entrance lobby which has a screen, also with arched windows with frosted glass which borrow light from the main body of the chapel, and the chapel is accessed from both right and left, and the lobby also allows access to the gallery. Let's go through. As you can see, the gallery is supported by cast iron columns made at the Priory Foundry in Carmarthen. They have decorated capitals. The gallery and fittings are of varnished pitch pine, and the benches are divided in the centre and reached from the side aisles. The whole building is resolutely symmetrical. The end wall has a blank arch which frames the large pulpit with its sturdy platform, the stage for the preacher. The sermon was the draw in 19th century Welsh chapels. Baptist ministers were not robed, they wore a Sunday best suit, and they knew how to draw in the crowds by their lively preaching. In front of the pulpit is a row of what are in fact ordinary dining chairs. This is where the deacons sit, and then, equally domestic and perfectly plain, is the table for the communion. An altar it is most certainly not. From this part of the chapel the deacons and the minister can see everyone. A good preacher would make eye contact with his audience, and if he wanted to keep an eye on the time during his sermon, there's a handy clock on the gallery front, visible to him but not to the congregation. Clock watching during the sermon would be rude. It's hard to think that a tiny place like Star needed so many seats, but as if these were not plentiful enough, there are lots more upstairs. So let's have a look. I'm not going to enjoy this. I'm absolutely petrified of heights, and chapel galleries terrify me, but you want to see up there, don't you? So I'll have to be brave. The seats are raked as in a theatre, and up here the benches are painted plain deal. This is really an overflow seating area. Chapel members paid a subscription and that entitled them to a bench below. Neighbouring chapels got together for joint services and other occasions, including concerts, so visitors on these occasions would be up here. This place would often have been stuffed with people and the whole building filled with beautiful singing. There's a very rickety looking long bench under the window which I really don't like the look of. The Welsh Baptists had links with congregations in America, and this one was no exception. Don't think that this out-of-the-way place was unconnected with the wider world. People went from here to America. The Williams family went to Wisconsin, where some of their many children were born in the 1890s, but came back around 1900. Thomas Howell Jones, son of David Lewis Jones, who was the minister for 20 years until his sudden death, aged 47, in 1868, had also gone to America. His uncle was Dr. Gomer Lewis, chairman of the Union of Welsh Baptists, in 1898. Thomas Howell Jones ran the Star Drug Store in Scranton, Pennsylvania, amongst other businesses there, and was an active member of the Baptist Chapel at Scranton. He gave the communion set to Star in memory of his father in 1908 when he was on a visit to his homeland. He died of lung disease in America in 1916. Star is just one of the many little Welsh chapels dotted about the countryside. It's not a listed building, it's not architecturally distinguished, but it is still important to its congregation, and, I hope you will agree, it's interesting to see inside its austere walls. I hope to make some more videos of Welsh chapels, so if you want to know when a new video comes out, please subscribe to the channel and press the little bell. And as always, thank you for watching.